Welcome to WestfordCAT's weekly news show. I'm your host, Alex Svensson. It's the beginning of November, we've set our clocks back an hour, and we have a bunch of news stories for you this week. We'll start off the show with this week's top stories.
The town of Westford recently held its annual special town meeting on Monday, October 27th in the Westford Academy Gymnasium. Nearly 700 people voted and dozens more were in attendance at the meeting, which lasted nearly 4 hours. 13 articles were on the agenda, each which included several motions. Some of those motions, such as the second motion on Article 3, sought $1,150,000 for the addition of a new artificial sports turf on Nutting Field. Meanwhile, the third motion on Article 3 sought for $1 million for the purchase of a new fire truck for the Westford Fire Department. These motions both triggered debate among some Westford residents. One resident suggested that the field be moved directly to a vote as it was debated during past meetings, but another resident opposed the renovation of the field altogether, arguing that the town of Westford has other sports fields that can be used and the project was far too expensive.
I'd coached the teams in Westford for 10 years, on Jack Walsh, on Abbott, and I never had a player go down with an injury. Maybe I'm lucky, but there were the synthetic fields that were being put in at the end of my tenure, and I don't see that. How many fields do we have? How many? What are we talking?
We've already thoroughly debated this, not only at a town meeting, but a special meeting as well. I believe we have a number of children who don't get a say in this. They're all here outside. I want to speak for the children, make sure they're safe, and see if we can move this directly to a vote. And thank you very much for the time. Appreciate everyone who showed up tonight.
The motion to purchase a new fire truck also triggered some debate among residents regarding the urgency of needing a new fire truck, the cost, and when it was expected to be delivered.
This is a long time to wait for a fire truck, and if I know anything about Massachusetts, they love to change the regulations and compliance down the road for future anything. So I guess my question is, does the contract we're planning to sign guarantee that it will be compliant with Massachusetts law and any requirements regarding fire engines when it's produced, so that we're not agreeing to approve something that may not be in compliance?
Despite some objections from residents, both motions passed with an overwhelming majority, 562 to 131 and 420 to 66, respectively. After the meeting, WestfordCAT spoke to Westford Youth Soccer President Matt Cotter, who said he was pleased with the outcome of the vote on Nutting Field, as he said the renovation was long overdue and it was the primary soccer field used by the town's soccer programs.
A portion of Groton Road was shut down on the morning of Monday, October 27th after a gas main ruptured near Commerce Way, triggering a leak. Around 11 a.m. on that day, the Westford Fire and Police Departments responded to the scene, which was just down the road from Fletcher Granite. Officers blocked off the road, redirected traffic, and warned residents to stay away from the area, while firefighters worked to contain the leak. National Grid was then called to the scene to shut off the gas main and repair the leak. WestfordCAT was at the scene and saw a Westford Fire EMS ambulance, but Westford Fire Chief Mike Dennehy said no one was taken to the hospital as a result of the leak. Just after 12:30 p.m., officers said National Grid shut down the gas main, and shortly before 1 p.m., officers said the road was reopened to traffic. National Grid later told WestfordCAT the gas main ruptured after it was hit by another object, possibly a vehicle, and workers continued to work on repairing the gas main for days after the leak. The incident marks the second time in just over a month that a gas main ruptured and leaked near Groton Road, as firefighters, police, and National Grid responded to a gas leak near Fletcher Granite and the Ace Hardware Plaza on Groton Road on September 12th. The Westford Regency Inn and Conference Center on 219 Littleton Road will be closing in December and will lay off all 62 of its employees. In a Massachusetts Workers Adjustment Restraining Notice letter filed with the state's Department of Career Services on October 16th, the hotel's parent company Empire Hospitality said the layoffs will take effect on December 19th. The letter said the staff affected by the layoffs will include 34 food and beverage employees, 15 housekeeping and maintenance employees, 7 front desk workers, 3 administrators, and 3 salespeople. The letter also said that no employees are represented by a union, and it's not clear whether or not they will be eligible for reassignment at other Empire Hospitality Hotel locations. The closure announcement comes as the hotel finalizes a sale of the property to development firm Redgate, with the sale set to close on December 18th. According to a conceptual plan presented to the town of Westford, Redgate plans to tear the current hotel building down and replace it with two 4-story multi-family buildings containing around 300 new apartments, as the property is located within the multi-family overlay district passed by the town in accordance to the MBTA Communities Act. The project was discussed by town officials and residents during the October 6th Planning Board meeting. Planning board members were largely receptive to the idea, but they raised concerns about the building scale and massing, the traffic and site circulation along the road, the fire access and the need for two entrances, the architectural style, the parking density, and the snow storage. However, despite these concerns, the planning board voted to move forward with the plan. That's it for this week's top stories. Now let's turn it over to our reporter Emily Collins, who will share with us two important stories about Westford residents helping the community.
Thank you, Alex. Westford firefighters and Westford Animal Control's quick decisions saved the life of a beloved furry family member of a Westford household. On the afternoon of Monday, October 20th, the Westford Fire and Police Department received an emergency call reporting a fire at a home on Forge Village Road.
2-story residential. We have smoke showing from the D Delta side. It appears to be there's a fire in the wall between the electrical panel in the garage and the exterior wall.
When they arrived at the scene, firefighters located the fire within the exterior wall of the attached garage, which they confirmed was an electrical fire involving the main electrical feed to the home.
Can you let National Grid know that we have an electrical fire? We're going to need the power shut down ASAP.
Firefighters then called National Grid to disconnect power to the home and struck a second alarm, bringing in mutual support. While no residents were home during the fire, firefighters said they rescued a cat who was transported by Animal Control to a nearby animal hospital for evaluation. Animal Control said the cat, named Sassafras, was spotted by firefighters in a suitcase on the floor of the home. Sassafras then received immediate care at the animal hospital, including 24 hours of oxygen therapy and IV fluids, before he was safely returned home to his family in a stable and healthy condition, Animal Control said. Although no one was hurt in the fire, the garage on the home did appear to sustain moderate damage. The cause of the fire is unclear and remains under investigation by the Westford Fire Department Investigation Unit. Another important story involving members of the Westford community came from a Westford favorite, Good Pickin' Farm. Bob Wiskevitz and Sandra Hobby, who run the farm, recently donated 100,000 pounds of crops to food pantries across Massachusetts. This year marked the second consecutive year the farm has done this, which was made possible after residents voted overwhelmingly in support of the initiative last year. WestfordCAT spoke to Bob and Sandra and asked them what inspired them to begin this initiative, how the process of growing and harvesting the crops works, and how Westford residents can continue to support the farm and the local food pantries.
So everybody's talking about food insecurity and the need for that. Sandra and I both grew up without too much, and my farmer partner in the farm, Bob Webb and his wife, once again, you didn't have very much food, and we would live on small farms. He in Missouri, myself in Central Mass, and we had milk coming straight from the cow, and we had food coming off the land. We were poor, but we didn't know we were poor because we had enough to eat. That's not the truth anymore.
In the interview, Bob said Massachusetts is the third wealthiest state in the country, but around 169,000 kids still go hungry. Bob said he grew up in central Massachusetts in a family without much money, and said he felt it was his duty to make even a small difference in combating hunger.
In Massachusetts, third wealthiest state, 169,000 kids going to bed hungry. And we're making just a little dent in that, but we're going to continue to make that dent, and it'll work out. It's getting better all the time.
Bob and Sandra said much of the help they get in planting, growing, and harvesting the crops comes from the Boston area gleaners, who begin planting crops in May, which then grow over the summer and are harvested in September and October. Cover crops are then distributed over the soil to protect it during the winter. Then different crops are planted on the same soil in the spring, as rotating crops helps the soil stay healthy and improve growth. While many different vegetables, fruits, and other crops are harvested at the farm and sent to food pantries, Bob and Sandra said butternut squash was this year's crop of choice.
People say, well, why are you raising 100,000 pounds of butternut squash? Well, any one of us that have had a butternut squash at Thanksgiving, 3 months later you still got it and it's whole and it's solid, has a great shelf life to it.
I know they actually last about a year.
Is that right?
I did not know that. Yep.
Somebody said that to me the other day, and I'm glad you're saying, because I began to doubt it. Someone said, we've got one from last Thanksgiving. I said, you can't.
Yeah, but they do. That's how long they...
So great shelf life, doesn't have to be refrigerated, so to speak. And, that's fantastic, and high antioxidant value.
Bob and Sandra have continued to keep Good Pickin' Farm an important center of the community in Westford. They hope that through support coming from the town of Westford and its residents, they can keep the initiative going in the future.
I always stop to point out that field and to talk to people about it, and it blows their mind because they don't expect to hear that. That's all of that food was given away. Yes, every single bit of it. A little tiny bit stays in Westford because that's all they can take.
Right.
But throughout this whole state, it hits all kinds of people. And in this world, it's a really wonderful thing.
Thank you for sharing those great stories with us, Emily. Westford Town Manager Kristen Lass is inviting the public to join her for a Tea with the Town Manager event, a new event providing an opportunity for residents to ask questions, voice concerns, and share ideas. The next Tea with the Town Manager event will be held from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. on Thursday, November 6th in room 202 on the second floor of the Rodenbush Community Center, which is located on 65 Main Street in Westford. In addition, Tea with the Town Manager events are scheduled for January 8th, 2026 and March 12th, 2026. These events are open to the public. Lass said residents can engage with her in an informal way at the new sessions. Residents can also connect with Lass by contacting her at the town office or talking to her at one of the town's public meetings. Part of Westford's strategic plan is to communicate clearly and more effectively, Lass said, adding the event is designed to encourage community engagement. I think it's really a more intimate way to get to know residents, understand their concerns, and for them to get to know me as well, Lass said. Lass said some examples of what residents might want to know more about include projects in town, the town budget, how town meetings operate, and how to get involved in town committees. She also encourages residents to share their ideas for the future of Westford. Now let's have a look at this week's weather forecast. After a rainy end to last week, November will start out with mostly sunny weather, a few clouds, and temperatures in the high 50s to start the week. Temperatures will then drop down to the low 50s towards the middle of the week, typical for this time of year. There will be another small chance for showers on Thursday and again on the following Sunday. This week also marks the end of peak fall foliage around the Westford area and the first week of standard time, as daylight savings time ended last weekend when we set our clocks back an hour. That's all for this week's weather forecast. Now let's have a look at sports for this week. The Westford Academy Ghosts varsity football team took on the Concord Carlisle Patriots last Thursday for their final game before the season-ending Thanksgiving game this month. Faced with pouring rain and wet and windy conditions, the Ghosts braved the elements to take part in their annual senior night, honoring senior students on the team and in the school band, as well as their families. But despite high spirits, the game quickly took a turn for the worst, with Westford quarterback number 9 Jack Lafon fumbling in the first quarter, which was recovered. Westford running back number 1 Ben Chen then made several unsuccessful attempts to drive down the field, and Lafon threw an incomplete pass which was deflected by Concord Carlisle. The ball was then turned over to the Patriots. Concord Carlisle running back number 6 Aiden Bays then scored a touchdown from the red zone, but the kicker number 15 Jack Garofalo missed the extra point, bringing the score to 6-0. Later in the game, Concord Carlisle running back number 4 Thomas Berry scored a 35-yard touchdown, bringing the score to 12-0 for the Patriots. Garofalo once again missed the extra point. Finally, despite several more attempts by the Ghosts, LaFawn threw an interception which was picked off by Concord Carlisle defense number 28 Henry Jackson. Bays then scored a 37-yard running touchdown, with Garofalo making the extra point. Concord Carlisle then went on to win the game 19-0. The Ghosts are now 2-6 ahead of their Thanksgiving game against Acton later this month, and at 6th place they now sit at the bottom of the Dual County League. The Westford Academy Ghosts boys varsity soccer team ended their season with a 1-0 loss against Lincoln Sudbury last Tuesday. The boys varsity soccer team have struggled with an underwhelming season, finishing at the bottom of the league with 2 wins, 9 losses, and 6 tie games. On the other hand, the Westford Academy Ghosts girls varsity soccer team has done much better this season, despite also losing to Lincoln Sudbury during an away game last Tuesday. The girls varsity soccer team ended their season in 4th place in the league with 10 wins, 5 losses, and 3 tie games. Meanwhile, the New England Patriots are 1st place in the AFC East, and they're hoping to hold on to that position when they take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday. Kickoff is at 1 p.m. at the Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. The Celtics, on the other hand, they've had a sluggish start to their regular season, losing their first 3 games against the 76ers, Knicks, and Pistons before finally getting a win last Monday in New Orleans against the Pelicans. That's it for this week's edition of WestfordCAT News. We'll return on Sunday, November 9th with more stories. I'm Alex Svensson, and thank you for watching WestfordCAT News.